nobody brings a vibe like Matt Spiegel, AM 670, The Score in Chicago, and that's what he has been asked to do in Chicago this weekend because there is a steady stream of Bay Area people on planes out of SFO, out of Oakland, out of everywhere to get themselves to Chicago this weekend for the Bay Area invasion. You are in charge of rolling out the red carpet. You've done a wonderful job, my friend.
Thank God. You know, we are the Mecca of the Midwest, and I'm used to denizens of Iowa and, South Dakota making their way here, but the fact that you highly cultured coastal elites from San Francisco still will come and hobnob with us in the pre-summer September air is the latest signifier that I've made the right choice in terms of the city to call home.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's about 100 degrees inland here, and even 85, 90 in the city. What's this rain this weekend? What the hell's that all about?
It's the first I've heard of it. Truth be told, you could argue that I host a sports talk show and should know that the Bears and Niners might be in rain, but you could also argue that my show doesn't start until 2 o'clock Central Time. So, so we'll have a little rain. Toughen up, Buttercup. You're in San Francisco. Come on.
Listen.
You're used to this stuff. You're used to this stuff where it's foggy and 47 in the morning, and then
We're not used to rain in September, brother.
Don't you dare tell a coastal elite to toughen up, Buttercup. That's not what we do, Matt.
Here's my real concern. I like that JD is wearing a collar. That's good. But he should have worn the shirt as well. The look with just the collar, to me, is not working. I know it's radio, but the entire shirt would have been.
I know. Well, we're on YouTube as well, so we want to show off and see if we can get a few extra viewers into this thing. But anyway, gosh, it's always good to hear your voice, bud. And I know you're excited for this weekend, the main event. Forget Bears 49ers. How about this Giants Cubs series, huh?
Oh, man, let's go. Let's go. We are plotting and scheming for how the Cubs can hit the spring with an over-under in Vegas of 82.5. That would be exciting. And maybe they're ready to take that kind of step with some off-season spending. But seriously, man, Trey Lance and Justin Fields, this should be fun. Both these guys could step forward. I know you've talked about it ad nauseum. You realize that we no longer have Matt Nagy. And that means we are viable against most teams. We do not have the incredibly narcissistic, stubborn Hungarian head coach that was holding us back for several years of multiple quarterbacks. And that is freeing for the fan base.
No, I can tell there's an excitement there from this standpoint. And you tell me if I'm onto something here, because here, what has grabbed our minds because we love soap operas, what's grabbed our minds for the last 10 days is, wait a minute, Jimmy is still on the team? Hold on a second. What are we doing here? Trey and Jimmy, is that going to mess with Trey? Are they trying to say something? And meantime, we've missed what's a major story, I think, which is that Trey Lance was drafted over Justin Fields when Justin Fields, once upon a time, was supposed to be the clear 1A to Trevor Lawrence going into that draft. So in Chicago, it feels to me like this is some sort of a Justin Fields sort of prove-it revenge game. Is that about right?
That's more for the fans than it is for Justin, apparently. Darnell Mooney, the wide receiver, brought it up, and then Fields was asked about it directly and said, nah, I don't take stuff like that personal. He may or may not be lying, because it seems like the modern athlete takes every opportunity to take everything personal. But it's bigger than that here. I mean, the mismanagement, the miseducation of Justin Fields was so egregious. And now to have seen him anointed as the starter months ago, being given every rep with anybody that's available, and I know they are low quality in terms of the wideouts and targets other than Mooney, but also be lockstep with an offensive coordinator who's just trying to do things simple. It's the Shanahan, Matt LaFleur system. Let's run the ball. Let's have play action. Let's let your skills develop and let you shine into it without some of the quality that we
Well, let's get back with Matt. He just drove his car into a Great Lake. I thought he was doing great. I have reason to believe that Matt it just had a dental procedure done this morning, and so there's a lot of Novocaine. So it could have been that.
Could have been.
But other than that, I thought he was doing great. I was talking about the Justin Fields situation, and yeah, he's handled it well. Although he did throw in a quote when they asked him about the Darnell Mooney thing. He goes, "I'm glad the 49ers passed on me," which, he's just kind of going toward his fan base there.
What else you going to say?
Yeah. I mean, truth be told, Justin, your numbers would probably be a lot better this year if you had been taken by the Niners. But that is a thing. That's going to be a thing in this game, I think, once it gets started. Once the Jimmy thing is like you're over there with a clipboard, the Trey versus Justin thing is going to be what the nation is watching. Okay, Matt, go back ahead. Your answer was phenomenal. We'd like to hear the rest of it.
So Justin Fields last year, his first start came after not having any reps at all in the preseason, somehow being labeled the backup, even though he hadn't really gotten any practice. And then he's in there against Cleveland with Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney coming off the edge with absolutely nobody helping a terrible offensive line to block. And he ran for his life. And that was kind of symbolic of the way that he was taught. This is like a redo on a rookie season. So I think the ceiling might be low, but the floor is way higher on what we'll get from Justin Fields. And I think that's true immediately with a much more intuitive system with Luke Getsy in there, who's been very impressive as the offensive coordinator.
All right, Matt, you laid out the Justin Fields component to this, but I'll give you another angle that we're looking at here in the Bay. And you mentioned Matt Nagy, and we're viewing the Bears out here as one of the worst 3 to 5 teams in the NFL. So, yeah, Nagy is gone, and I'm with you. He got over his skis, but the Bears made the playoffs a couple of times. Now they stink. Maybe that's better for the development of Justin Fields, but is that how bad are the Bears? Are we overplaying it, I guess, is where I'm coming from, Matt.
Well, here's the thing. 17 of the last 19 years, a last-place team has become a playoff team in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Every year, it turns over where half of the playoff field just about wasn't in the playoffs the year before. Things can turn quickly in this league. Now, the talent does not seem to be there at some very key positions, without a doubt. But just assuming they're going to be bad based on last year is folly. When you or I break down football, how much is scheme and how much is talent is a never-ending debate. It took Tom Brady leaving for us to realize it was him more than it was Bill Belichick. And I know we went to a perfect system, and we could even debate that. But here's the thing. They're going to be far, far better with a competent coaching staff and a sensible plan. So I don't think they're going to be anywhere near as bad as people think. That said, there is a talent disparity. Look, if the win total in Vegas is 5.5, I would take the over, but not by much. The moral victory total, as set by the Parkins and Spiegel show yesterday.
10-11. Got to be 10-11, right?
11.5. 11.5 on the moral victory total. And that is, a moral victory happens regardless of whether there is a win or a loss. We defined it this way. A moral victory is if 2 of the following 3 facts are true at the end of a game. A, Justin Fields was good. B, the team was well coached and we saw competence overall from the coaching staff. And C, Ryan Poles' acquisitions, either the 13 rookies on this team or his few free agent acquisitions, play well. If 2 of those 3 facts are true, it qualifies as a moral victory. I'm going over on 11.5, and we might squeeze a few more actual victories in there as well.
You are the one person I've talked to this week who is predicting the Bears and Niners to both be 1-0 at the end of this game. Congratulations.
Happy to do it. I actually think I think there's a shot that the Bears squeeze this out because Fields plays well and because this run defense, while it was brutal last year, is going to be a lot better. Jaquan Brisker, the strong safety, is an absolute beast. You'll see him and Roquan Smith show up strong in the run game. And I have a feeling that Trey Lance is going to feel a little overmatched in his first game as a starter with Jimmy G over his shoulder in Chicago.
Okay, so let me ask it to you this way, because to sort of further what JD was saying, like I don't use the word suck with any team going into the year because they're all 0-0, and as you stated, there's always surprises. But when I look at the Bears, I guess my question is, what's their identity? And that's what I don't know. Like, there aren't many teams that are ahead of the Bears in we haven't heard of you around the nation. There's Justin Fields. There's Mooney. We get Montgomery. He's been there for a while. I don't know how many more Bears people could name. So what's their calling card this year, Matt?
Running the ball. And it wasn't last year or the year before or the year before. And that includes a year where, or the year before that. Like when Matt Nagy was successful with Mitch and they lost on the double doink in the playoff game, they still didn't run the ball with authority. And then they went further and further away from it. This team is going to run the ball. As long as the game is close enough that they can run it and use play action, then they can be effective on offense. Not explosive, but effective. If they get way behind and Justin Fields has to throw a ton from the pocket, they're gonna be in trouble. But the identity of this team is going to be running the ball, and this Matt Eberflus defense that was the Colts defense last year, that is reminiscent of the old Tampa 2 and the Lovie Smith defenses with Brian Urlacher and Mike Brown and the Bears in the aughts, is going to try and force turnovers. If Roquan Smith, who has not forced turnovers in his career, becomes a hint of what Darius Shaq Leonard has been in the same position in the same defense in Indianapolis, then things are going to be very different. If Eddie Jackson, who was a turnover machine 2 years ago and hasn't had a pick, I think, in like 21 games, something like that, if he reverts, and now with a strong safety, they're going to turn the ball over on defense, and they're going to run the ball and use play action on offense. And it's simple. It's very straightforward. Think Tennessee Titans without some of the talent on that offense. It's David Montgomery's not Derrick Henry, but this league. If you're a strong, aggressive running back, you can be effective in a concerted effort run game, and that's what you're going to see.
All right, Matt. So what's the status of the offensive line for the Bears? Because that's the one area where the Niners feel they have a matchup advantage every single week. A lot in flux, it would appear, on the outside of the offensive line. They want to run it. Can they?
Well, you've reached the trouble spot. You've reached a point where it's difficult to muster optimism. Braxton Jones, the fifth-round pick, who's the starting left tackle in his first career game against Nick Bosa, was two-time first-team All-Big Sky at Southern Utah. That's right. Yes, he was. But that's, he fits the profile a lot better than Tevin Jenkins, and they trust him. And these guys, Ryan Poles and others, have the arrogance of first-timers. They think they found themselves a stalwart left guard in the fifth round. If they did, like David Bakhtiari was in Green Bay, where others have, then watch out. They'll be fine on the inside, where Lucas Patrick is expected back healthy. Cody Whitehair's their best player. I worry about the other edge as well with Larry Borum, a fifth-round pick last year. Tevin Jenkins, last year's number one, is either going to be the right guard or he's going to be a backup on this game. But my good friends Chip Help and Max Protect will be there on the edges. Both of them will be active and employed frequently. You'll see Cole Kmet blocking. You'll see Ryan Griffin, the other tight end, blocking. And you'll see some rollouts and a lot of stuff to help Justin Fields. So hopefully that covers up the incredible disparity between your beastly defensive line and the Bears' frighteningly young offensive line.
All right, man. Fantastic stuff. The Novocaine, we couldn't even tell. And where can I find you for a Manhattan on the Rocks Saturday night is what I want to know.
Oh, I like it. I got a gig with the band, but then we're done. But we're out in the burbs. I wouldn't dare make you come to the burbs.
I was going to say, where can we watch you play? But it's what are you? You at an old folks' home or something? Where are you playing?
We're at the 150th anniversary of Suburban Wilmette. They're throwing themselves a party for the Centennial. Yeah, I know, exactly. And we're doing 2 sets of the Rolling Stones on Saturday night. I absolutely can't wait. But you, my friend, you will avail yourself of all there is to offer in this town. And if you're up late on Saturday night, I'll find you at a rooftop bar downtown.
Up late is happening. Book it, Matt. I'll text you. Thank you, brother. Phenomenal to have you.
Mark, you're the best.
Okay. There it is. That's Matt Spiegel at AM 670 The Score in Chicago, where they are getting ready. I've heard already today, SFO, a lot of people heading out in their red and gold. Like, The brigade is on the way.